What's going on, everybody? Welcome to TCG Gym. Today's workout is going to be over purple Kaido deck limited battles in the One Piece TCG card game. The reason why we're going over deck limited is because of the big tournaments coming up at the end of the month. On the 30th, I believe, is the next one for those of you who got accepted and didn't get waitlisted. So what we're going to do is we're going to build Kaido, how it should be optimized, and why we're building it that way. So first we're going to go put our Kaido in there. Alright, so ulti, 2k counter, that's a 4 of, easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, Kaido, that's a 4 of. Now, a lot of people question why you do 3, do 4. You have to really think about how the deck is going to play against these other decks. You have to think about the meta. Like, well, you don't want to see 2 of these guys, right? Maybe. You're not going to hardly ever get 2 of them off. And if you do, something's already gone wrong. But you need to see one. This deck has a very hard time and will struggle if you do not see this card. So, that's a 4 of. King, another 4 of. Deck's just really, card's just really good against green, blue, red. It only suffers against the mirror match in purple and doesn't have a ton of targets. Queen, that's a 4 of. It's 5 drop, 6k power, it's good enough, block, and it's going to give you some card advantage. It's going to be very helpful, especially in situations where you're on 10 Dawn and you just need to stabilize the board, and then you need some counter in your hand, and we'll go into why you would need counter in your hand a little bit later. Sasaki, it's a 3 drop, 4k. You're not really ever going to be casting this guy too much. It's a situational use, but he's got a counter on his body. That's pretty dang on important, so that's going to be a 4 of. Sheep's Head, not going to run any Sheep's Head. I know there's some, it's kind of a controversial pick, and it's only coming down to a few cards difference between deck builds, but after extensive play testing through multiple different decks, I hardly ever played either Sheep's Head and then X-Drake. That's going to be the decision between the two. I hardly ever played them, and in situations I did play one or the other, I had to swing for 6k to be effective, which means my Dawn allocation would just have been 1 to make it 5k, 6k instead of Dawn allocation of 2. But most of the time, you're just going to use these guys for their counters. So that's a 0 of. Jack is going to be a 4 of, primarily because if you miss the Onigashima, you get the Jack. Gunrami, no. Who's Who, that's a 4 of automatically. It hits its worst matchup is the mirror match. It's going to hit blue, a ton of targets in blue. Well, yeah, ton of targets in blue. It's got a ton of blockers, and it's going to hit the Shimaru, I believe. So, super effective. And against green, green's got a ton of 3 drops as well, especially Promo Kid. You can't let Promo Kid stay online too much, or else it's just going to cause too much pressure on you. So that's definitely a 4 of. You have Black Maria. That's a 4 of. For sure. You need blockers. You don't have a bajillion blockers like blue does, so that's definitely a 4 of. Page 1, you're going to run those primarily because it's a 1k counter. Now, a lot of people talk about the ulti page 1 combo. I've only played this very situationally. Like, I've already mulliganed, I've drawn another hand, I have no Jack, I have no Nagishima, and I just know right off the bat that my strategy is going to be very aggressive. So in situations like that, that's the only time I've ever really played them. Outside of that, I'm holding them for counters. X-Drake, I believe it's only a 3 of. It's a 2 or 3 of, depending on the space allocation. Primarily, again, you don't want to be put in a position where you're playing X-Drake. Again, same reason why you would play page 1 ulti combo or whatever. You play him because you don't have the ramp, you don't have the ability to get your king out or get your queen out. It's very situational when you ever play them, and you don't want to be in that situation to play them. But he's a 3 drop for 5k, and that's nice when you have to have it. But outside of that, it's that 1k counter. All-Star Calamities, you run 0 of this card. It's just most of the time a dead card. Takes 4 to draw 1 card and add 1 Dawn. Your card draw in the deck is more than likely going to be fine with your queens, and then drawing off your life deck. If you get in situations where you're just need to draw one more card, the 4 is just going to set you back too far, and you're already just not going to be able to catch up at that point in time. As far as getting the one more Dawn, is not going to be an issue either, unless you're just completely way too far behind. Again, tapping forward to get one Dawn, you need to be able to have like up here Jack. That's a 4K body at the very least that can swing in with one Dawn. It's a threat on the board. But most of the time, this card's just going to be a dead card in your hand. You're never going to have the Dawn to spend on it, so I just dropped it completely. Brachio Bomber was one that I'm going to run 3 of. Now, it's a situational use card. There are times it's a dead card in your hand. However, that's fine because you've got other cards that help you get rid of cards out of your hand if you need to. It can trigger, it's situationally if you would trigger or not. Again, if you're in a situation where you don't have Onigashima, maybe you hit a Jack, but you want to get a little bit more ramp and you hit this on the trigger just to get a little bit of advantage to help you maybe get to, Kaido, making sure he plays on curve. That situation, you trigger it. Dropping this as a 6. Now, the other reason why this is important is because it hits, it's expensive, but it hits so many targets that Hoo-Hoos miss, and that King misses, and Kaido hits, but Kaido's 9 and sack 5 Dawn, right? So this is a way, like let's say you don't have King in hand, or even if you have King in hand, let's say you hit your 6 Dawn turn, or your 7 Dawn, 6 Dawn, whatever turn, and there's just a threat in the board. It'd be like Basil could be on the board. Let's see. It could also just be for a blocker. Generally speaking, you don't use it, but if for whatever reason the situation dictate, it is just another removal card, and it will ramp you 1 Dawn. But it's only a 3 of, just primarily because you don't want to generally see more than one of these in a game. Because most of the time, you're only going to be able to cast 1, and then you're done. If you see another one, 9 times out of 10, it's just a dead card in your hand, and it needs to be pitched to Jack. All right, Blast Breath. This card will save your life. That is a 4 of. Just that 4K, and we'll get into this in a second. But this deck struggles with combo, and this card here is going to be able to set up that feint and be able to just squeak out that win in the very end. Onigashima, obviously that's a 4-drop. You have to hit your Onigashimas. Drawing 2 Onigashimas kind of stinks, but with Queen and Jack, there's just ways to discard them as discard outlets, generally speaking. But sometimes, it's a dead card in your hand. So that is 50 main deck. Now, the promo. We'll talk about the promo real quick. This promo Kaido. Why don't you play promo Kaido? Well, it's a 7-drop for 8K. What does that tell you? It's 7-drop. It's big, thick body. His ability is not that good. More than likely, you're not going to use it. And if you use it, it's not going to be beneficial. Because they could also just decide after you sack the Dawn, just block him or combo out of it, and then now you're down 2 Dawn, and they take no damage, and they're going to get advantage over top of you. But you're like, well, it's a 7-drop 8K body. Why not put them in instead of something else? Well, most of the times, the situation in playing and understanding how you're playing against other optimized decks, the situation is never going to come where you're going to be available just to play him. You're going to have to either be removing creatures off the board or playing blockers to set up your turn, getting ready for next turn's Kaido drop, whatever that is, by allocating Dawn to swing in attacks or get them at the right life so you can go in and just really put the pressure on. It just never comes up to play this guy. On top of that, what cards would you remove for him, right? He's got no counter. Now, if you look right here, we're running lean on counter. Okay, so non-counter cards, that's 4, 7, 11 right here. Kaido doesn't have any, it's 15. King doesn't have any, it's 19. Let's see. Who doesn't have any? That's 23. 23 cards. All right. Yeah. So dangling on near half of your deck is non-counter cards. Okay. So you're gonna get put in situations where if you're not playing the deck properly, you're just going to consistently lose because you're not going to have the counter for their alpha strikes. You might sit there, I'm going to save all my counter up, I'm going to draw these cards, get low on life, and save my counter up. And you can't play the deck like that. So what card would you drop for these guys here? He doesn't take anything off the board. He's scary for sure. They have to deal with it, sure. But look what his cast is. 7, right? What hits that? Don Flamingo. Don Flamingo counters this guy all day long, and you will cry. You never play it against blue, and it's just a dead no counter card in your hand. You already have too many no counter cards in this deck. It just doesn't work against blue whatsoever. Now, the only reason why purple can beat blue. Now, blue, that's a tough matchup. Blue is probably, in an optimized blue deck, is probably the best one in limited format. All right. The only reason why, though, that the blue struggles with this deck is because nobody can deal with 10-drop Kaido. You can't deal with 10-drop Kaido. He's just undealable. You can't deal with him. All right. So that's the only reason why this deck is viable, is because of that 10-drop Kaido. Now, the reasons why, again, you don't want to play this guy, no counter. You struggle with counter, and we'll go into in a later video how to strategize using the limited amount of counter you have, but it changes obviously deck to deck, situation to situation. But the overall general use of your counter needs to be efficient counter blocks. All right, if they swing 5k early, if you need a draw. Okay, like let's say you have Onigashima, okay, but you have to get Kaido. You have to get Kaido. You use that to draw into Kaido, or you use that to draw into a king if you're looking for an answer to see get rid of their 3 or 4 drop, or it's not bad to draw into queen to dig in your deck more to find Kaido. There's so many things you can rip off the top there that would put you just over the edge. Now if you drop Onigashima on 3 Dawn, right? So that means and if you take that hit, you can ramp into Brachial Bomber, and I believe that'll get you there 1 turn sooner. So, but this is the optimal build. I'll go through the matchups in other videos and kind of do breakdowns on how they interact with each other. So make sure you stay tuned and come on back. All right, I'll talk to y'all later.